pillars that you need to take care of while preparing for economics in GS overall, mains as well as prelims included. First is, and I'll give you examples also, concepts. So just make a brief table like this where there are 3 columns: concepts, facts or factual details, and viewpoints. Okay, let's understand what I mean by all this. So for example, most of the topics that we do, almost in all the topics, initially you will be learning a lot of concepts. For example, a topic that I will do with you is on national income accounting. That will be my first topic, although I'm not starting with the topic right now. We'll talk about national income accounting. So in national income accounting, we'll do concepts like GDP, GNP. Don't worry, one by one, all this will come. And a number of other things. For example, we'll talk about the methods of GDP calculation. Okay, and so on. We'll talk about many more things over here. Why am I calling it concept? Concept means this is what you have to understand. Which means memory is important, but more than memory, understanding will be. Like you should be knowing that when we say domestic product, what is included, what is not included, something like that, you should be aware of. Or when we say GDP at factor cost, how is it different from market price? Little bit of memory, but more of understanding. Similarly, after this, I'll do something like money and banking, which is even more important topic for this exam, where we'll do the things like what is repo rate and what is CRR and SLR. These things have to be understood beyond a point. So initially, your main focus should be on conceptual understanding. No matter which teacher is taking that topic, make sure the concept that he or she is talking about is getting clear to you in terms of understanding, not just memory. Then comes some factual details. Well, factual details will be related to this only. For example, a factual detail which has become very important in national income accounting is the change in methodology to estimate GDP. I'm just giving an example here. Since 2015, there has been a change in methodology to estimate the GDP. So what are the changes? You should be aware of the factual details about it. Generally in factual detail, they do not ask questions on numbers. Just to clarify, mostly they do not ask questions on numbers, but the fact in words are mainly expected to be known. By the way, I'm taking example more from national income accounting, but the factual details can be of various other types. So just sharing a few more examples apart from this topic. In factual detail, you will be expected to know a number of things about government programs. There can be government programs related to, say, providing drinking water or education or LPG cylinders to agricultural development, etc. So these government programs are to be memorized. Factual details are something which are to be memorized. You can't do much about it except memorizing them. So memory is also important for the exam. Understanding is also important. But generally, according to me, understanding comes first and then only after that memory. Like if you do not know what is GDP, how can you understand the change in methodology of GDP calculation? Getting it? So first of all, your basic concept should be clear. Then only the facts also will make a better sense. And that will generally apply to every topic, not just my topic. but almost any other topic that any other teacher will be taking up. Okay, since I was talking about example, just one more example. In factual detail based question, there is one type of question coming very regularly nowadays, not related to this topic, by the way. Question on international organizations. In prelims exam particularly, they are asking some questions on international organizations like World Bank, IMF, WTO, etc. I'm just informing you. Reason is that suppose you are reading newspaper and suddenly a World Bank report comes before you. In the newspaper reading, a World Bank report or an IMF report comes before you. You should not just be looking into what that report is telling. Obviously, that should also be somewhere in your mind. You should also remember the link between report and who publishes it. Because nowadays, they are giving questions on that also. Like such and such report is published by which organization. Okay, I would say these questions sometimes are difficult. Because if you say, take IMF only, IMF will be publishing at least around 50-60 reports. No one can practically keep memorizing all the report names. But generally, they will not ask question on any random report. Remember, they generally ask question on a report which may have appeared in newspapers in last few months. So that's why we keep on telling you, read newspapers. Newspapers are directly, indirectly important everywhere in this exam. Directly because they may ask you question on something which is as a conclusion being given in a report, in a newspaper article, or something which is just in bylines. Okay, so that's where the newspaper reading would be very helpful to you. Fine, as we'll move in detail, I'll tell you more example. Now, before I come to the third thing, a clarification. If you are good at conceptual understanding, if you are good at the first two part, conceptual understanding and factual detail, it means you are reasonably ready to appear for the prelims questions which are coming in economics. I hope you all know that the first stage of this exam is prelims. The multiple choice questions are asked in the prelims exam. If you overall look into the prelims questions in economics, you can divide it in two main types, conceptual or factual. Okay, conceptual I call those questions where they expect you to work out the answer in the examination. Workout doesn't mean solving it numerically, no. Workout means linking it. As in something like if repo rate is increased, which of the following can happen? You can't memorize it. You will answer it only when you have understood the repo rate concept well. Okay, because these questions are never repeated. Are you getting it? So these questions are always new, fresh. And you can answer if and only if your concepts are well built. Yes, memory will also be important. There are some factual questions. So they can ask a question on something like here, which of the following changes are made in GDP? Pick up the correct answer. Okay, so that kind of a question can also come. So a mix of both. It's very difficult to predict how many from each, but generally it's a mix of both. And the trend shows that about 20 out of 100 questions in prelims are coming from economics. Yes, 1/5 weightage is of economics in your prelims exam. Plus minus a little goes. Don't chase me if you get 18, 19 only. It can happen. Okay, sometimes it may be 17, 18 also. Sometimes it can be 22, 23 also. Actually, there are a few questions which are beyond boundary of one subject. It's difficult to say whether it is economics or geography, because say agriculture is in both. Current affairs may be in many more subjects, so it is difficult. But roughly we see that around 20 questions are coming on an average from economics. And the recent trend shows half-half weightage, more or less. Say around 10 questions which are conceptual around 10 which are factual. Okay, this is what trend says, but this exam is known for changing the trend also, so be careful. Okay, so that kind of a change is also possible, yet you don't have a choice. You can only prepare on the basis of the common trend. Yeah, I can assure you that if you are well on both, then you can handle the questions reasonably well. What about mains exam? Well, to some extent, these things are needed in mains also. But as you will come to the mains examination, direct conceptual question will be less. Sometimes out of the way they can ask. I'm not telling that they will never ask. But in mains examination, it's rare that they will be asking something like what is GDP or say what is repo rate. They will not. That becomes too easy for them to be asked in the mains exam. So when you are writing your mains exam, and before I tell you what is needed, paper 3 of mains exam. I hope you know there are 4 papers in the GS mains. The paper number 3 has a number of economics questions, say around 7-8, roughly at least, coming from economics. Again, plus minus 1-2 can always happen. Generally plus only, minimum 7 questions we often see coming from economics. And I'll keep on giving you what type of questions are mostly asked. Sometimes in paper 2 also they ask. So often we see 2 or 3 questions these days coming in paper 2 also from economics, or where your economic concept will be needed or factual detail will be needed. You can't answer some of the questions in paper 2 also if you are not good at economics. And very rarely in paper 1 also. Paper 1, although is when I talk about in some social issues related question, they can attach economics. Not much important. But in paper 2, there are 2-3 questions. And in paper 3, there are around 7-8 questions, roughly, coming from economics. So to that extent, it is one of those subjects which will help you throughout your mains, and even later in interviews, etc. Also many a times the economics concept related questions are asked. Let's leave it for the time being. That's in any case not very predictable. Let's talk about what kind of questions you may get in mains. Very rarely conceptual. I can't rule out, but very rarely. Either it will be fact-based or factual detail-based, or it may be viewpoint-based. So for example, a few years ago, actually there was a question on the methodology which India has been adopting since 2015 to estimate GDP. The question asks that compare the pre and post 2015 GDP method, which I'll do in the class, don't worry. Okay, I will cover that part in the class, you don't need to worry about it. But I'm just telling, some of the questions may be just factual. As in, your memory part will be mainly taking the turn over there. But sometimes viewpoint-based questions can also come. Okay, for example, I'm not taking the example from GDP because there will be less viewpoint-based question. I'm taking an example from elsewhere. Like this year, there was a question that, do you think market economy can lead to inclusive growth? Okay, we'll do inclusive growth separately, actually. But overall, inclusive growth means when not just economy is growing, but that growth in economy is benefiting everyone. The growth in economy is benefiting everyone. When will growth benefit everyone? When employment is being created, when poverty and inequality levels are lower, and things such as that. One by one it will come. Don't be worried about it. But can you see, in such a question, you are being given option, you are being given freedom. The moment they say, do you think market economy can lead to inclusive growth? You have been given freedom that yes, I think so, or no, I don't think so. Or to some extent, maybe in some ways yes, but in other ways no, which we call a balanced approach. Generally, we advise that if you are given freedom to write, maintain a balanced approach. Don't over criticize something. Don't overpraise something. Okay, better ways to have a balanced one. Sometimes you may not be given that option of having a balanced approach. Like suppose I change this question as market economy can never lead to inclusive growth. Elaborate. Okay, then I have pushed you that you have to criticize market economy. Then you don't have option. So these words matter a lot in the mains exam. I know it is too early to discuss all that, but I just wanted to give you the broader requirement from this subject in the beginning, so that you are not in a kind of a thinking that, okay, if we do this, we'll clear the exam. I don't want to keep you in that limit. I'm trying to tell you that many things will be needed over here. By the way, we will in class also tell you how to handle this viewpoint-based question. So whenever such a topic comes, I'll give you some idea about it. But on this type of a question, you will get an idea only when you are done with at least 3-4 topics. Like my topic on national income, a topic on employment, or later on when I do poverty. When you are done with all this, then you will have enough material to write a valuable answer to such a question. In the meantime, what to do? Read editorials. Why editorials are so important in this exam? Editorials prepare you to build viewpoints. Okay, that is the best mechanism through which you can gradually prepare your viewpoints. So whenever you are reading newspapers, don't become judgmental in the editorial. It is possible that in one editorial, a policy will be praised, and immediately in the other editorial the next day or even the same day, the policy is being criticized. Read both. Okay, you are not supposed to take sides. You have to maintain a kind of a balance as far as possible. Are you following that? So you should be having a well-balanced approach. Generally that works later on. And remember, some mains questions are coming, which are not like just writing down the factual detail, but where you have to take a stand. This is actual question which came this year. Okay, this is not a assumed example that I'm talking about. And some similar questions are coming in your examination. By the way, something that I discussed today will give you an idea about what we call a market economy. Okay, so I thought it would be good to take that example here. Well,